Y'all, Leland live on the radio, trying to wind our way home. And today we just sort of landed in Oklahoma City, but doing a little quickie show. Just got here and got all set up today. And so just straightforward with the news and the phone calls, and like a normal show today, no big fun. People eating gluttonous amounts of steak in the background. I felt like a wimp last night, AJ, because after the show, I got all packed up. That takes almost a solid hour to get all this gear back in the car, and then decided I'm going to go ahead and eat here. I've been smelling steak for 4 or 5 hours, and I wimped out. I bought a ribeye and just couldn't even finish it. After sitting here talking about these people, I think it was only like a 12-ounce ribeye. I just totally wussed out last night, but man, it was good leftovers for lunch today. Hey AJ, I survived an earthquake this morning.
Oh, really?
I had no idea. Let me tell you the backstory. So apparently, we were in Amarillo last night, finished up the show at the Big Texan, crashed it. Actually, they have their own campground, so I was staying there as well on the way out at their nice facility. And I think it was 5:21 in the morning, there was a 5.0 earthquake in the panhandle of Texas, not far from Amarillo, kind of north and east of Amarillo. And I didn't feel it. Had no idea. And now the difference is some people did. There were lots of news reports. I didn't even know it till I got to Oklahoma City, because I pretty much got up, got some coffee, got in the driver's seat, and started boogieing toward Oklahoma City. So I get here and open up all the computers and get ready to start show prepping. Turned out they had a 5.0 this morning while we were sleeping. I guess we left about an hour after that. So in this thing though, you're kind of prone to shaking. I mean, you're used to going down the road shaking, and even at night, if somebody gets up and moves in the night, everybody knows campers, RVs kind of move a little bit, and it's also sitting on an air suspension and some other things that could have maybe absorbed any kind of shaking that would have happened. Plus, I was probably in a coma at 5:21. But dude, they felt it as far away as Kansas. No damage reported, but what they worry about here in this part of the country, even all the way over into Oklahoma, is the infrastructure underground, because as you know, this is a big oil drilling and energy state. And so pretty crazy to get here and find out that I wrote out a 5.0 and had no idea. I kind of felt a little sad. I wanted a story. It would have been a good story if I'd felt the shaking. The thing is, I think I remember something going bump in the, sort of in the middle of the night, and I barely woke up. And Jessica's youngest, Jack's hanging out with us, and I just figured it was somebody in the RV getting up to go to the bathroom or something with the dogs. You never know in these tight spaces. But I didn't completely wake up. And if I'd woken up and read the news, I would have been able to associate it, but I didn't have time. I had to get on the road, make some miles.
But I also think too, since like there wasn't really severe damage, or there wasn't, because I think about earthquake, I think about like the dishes falling out of the cabinets.
Oh yeah, yeah.
There's this big rumbling sound, stuff like that. But yeah, it's just like white noise. You just
and I would have gotten. And I do. Speaking of that, I turn on like 4 or 5 fans when I'm in here. The roof air's going. You can't hear anything at night because I love a white noise. Right, I love to have a fan going. I kind of drive people crazy with that. But you're right, and we're so immune to rattly sounds because when you're going down the road, it's an earthquake. Everything's rattling. I don't care. All these things have things in the kitchen and stuff that's going to rattle going down the road. You kind of get numb to it. You're exactly right. But there were some reports of people that were up. That's not too early in the morning, so a lot of people getting up, going to work and whatnot. But they did feel the vibration of it. It was deep in the ground, and but no real structural damage. Of course, it's really sparse in the panhandle of Texas. We crossed all that this morning. A lot of wind farms, a lot of cattle. But the infrastructure underground that produces a lot of their economy, you can't even see. And we haven't even heard any details about whether that was a thing or not, but I guess it'll take some time to determine if there were any kind of underground activities. And immediately the conspiracy crowd on the internet went straight to data centers causing it and the fracking. Everybody had a theory before we could even figure out. There's been a lot of tectonic activity in the world. We keep getting these warnings out on the West Coast in particular that the San Andreas is overdue, that there's a lot of pressure built up on that fault that runs all the way up into San Francisco and and in that area. And there, I told you my story about going to see the San Andreas Fault, didn't I? So I was years and years ago, I was in San Francisco, and I was like, I got to go see this thing. I was expecting like this big crack in the earth. And I went to this park that shows where the fault is. I think it was a national park. I go in there and found the forest ranger guy with the big hat, and I was like, where do we go to see the fault? He goes, well, it's right over there. And I said, I don't see it. He goes, well, you see that fence post there? I was like, yeah. He said, you see how the other fence post is about a foot higher? I was like, yeah. He goes, that's the fault line. I was like, that's it? What? I was a little let down. So, yeah, but they're, the Pacific Rim's been going crazy. We've had fresh volcanic activity in the world. And I don't know how much of this, just like the hot weather, I mean, we got all these people reporting that we're all boiling right now. And it is hot. By the way, we're going to be in the upper 90s next week around Birmingham. I keep hearing our forecasters talk about it. It's just going to be brutal next week. Not as much chance of rain after maybe an inch or two of rain for a good part of the listening area. Coming up here starting tomorrow afternoon, Saturday afternoon, and then just baking hot as we get into next week. And I guess I'm getting punishment for leaving and trying to avoid all that for a few weeks. And now we're right back in it for the month of August and late July. But back to the other things that we were talking about. Of course, all this volcanic activity and all this heat wave stuff, and you look at the statistical evidence, and it just doesn't bear that out. Yeah, records are always broken, but most of the big heat records for the South were set back in the 20s and 30s. There were some in the 70s, and other parts of the country, it's the same thing. They can trace heat records back to the 1800s when we had a little more sophisticated recording instrumentation and the ability to record it. But everything gets hyped. I go back to the summer of the shark. A few years ago, it was when AJ and I first started the show. I remember it was about 2010 or 11. There were all these shark bite reports, and every day the news was in this frenzy. And this is before social media got crazy stupid. And so everybody was in this little frenzy about people getting bit by sharks, particularly on the East Coast of the United States. And, of course, the Discovery Channel had their Shark Week going, and there are these shark sightings. People were going nuts. And then the statistics came out at the end of the summer. We actually had fewer shark bites and attacks on humans that summer than we had in the past, than the national average over each summer. The point being, sometimes we get more hype, and it makes things feel like they're real. It's true. We'll get hype over heat. We'll get hype over weather situations, calamitous weather. And people that want to exploit it for their political agendas, as is the case these days, will quickly jump on anything they can find to support their personal belief system and take it all out of context. And most Americans are just too dumb to know and to study statistics or to do their homework, so everybody just gets into it. Speaking of getting into it, let me just pivot from there straight to a news conference that we just heard with Trump a second ago. He went over to the EPA, and the conference is centered on AI and energy, possible regulation of data centers and all that. And it's still going on. The president went over there to speak, and I'll just give you the gist of what I just heard. And that AI ties into the internet, which kind of scares me a little bit about we're already so abused and abusive to ourselves with the modern social media technology. All that stuff is just ruining people's minds. And I'm going to say this, kids. I'm going to wag my finger right now if you're listening on the camera. If you lived in a time before all this stuff was invented, you'll remember, and I don't care if I sound like an old man right now, we were happier. It's true that society was happier before tech started driving everybody neurotic. It's just a flat fact. We were more in touch with each other, with the outdoors, with nature, senses of community. All that's being driven and divisively driven by it's social media is the tool. There's some sinister people behind some of that, and then some of it's our own personal addiction and vanities that keep us absorbed in that stuff 24/7. You think it's bad on the kids? We got grown-ass people that can't stay off social media, and you're neglecting everything that's actually around you in the real world. And wait till AI gets a hold of everything. I mean, I'll have to embrace it. I'll have to find the good side of it. I'm seeing miraculous stories about what it's going to do in terms of curing disease and solving problems and things that we could not fathom with our little human brains. But at the same time, there's always a downside to all these technologies. And I think some of us see that coming. And I believe My personal gut feeling is if you think things are bad now, just with a few social media apps and all that, wait till everybody's just 100% relying and dependent on artificial intelligence. Today, the president said something pretty remarkable at that news conference. It was kind of one of the headlines that came from Trump in the news article, and in that news conference, and he basically said AI is going to be bigger than the internet. Now, the president's belief is this: that it's coming, it's unstoppable, it's about to be all over the world. We've got to be ahead of the world on it. Our biggest competitor is China, and we've got to get these things built and dominate before China gets an upper hand. China's got an upper hand because they're in charge of the supply chain over there. A lot of the chips, a lot of the infrastructure is still coming from their part of the world. Some of the resources needed to build this infrastructure, they are in control of because of previous idiotic presidents and secretaries of state and others that negotiated terrible deals. And by just pure corruption, they bought off a lot of American politicians and got access to things because they were looking down the road. Now we've got, just for about 2.5 years, a competitive president who doesn't want to see us get our ass kicked, and he is certain that we've got to get ahead of this and dominate on it. But then there's the path between now and then, and the path is riddled with problems over what data centers do and the resources they consume and the noise they make and the downside of just the facilities themselves, not to mention the use of the facilities with artificial intelligence and everything else. It's a scary world, and it's coming so quickly. We'll be scaled so much in 18 months that it's going to startle people. A lot of folks just have no comprehension, and neither do I. As much as I try to understand it and get ahead of it and try to anticipate it, it's almost impossible. We're heading into a place where it will soon sort of control where it goes, believe it or not. And but there's this arms race to build it. We believe it'll be the center of all commerce, and just like the internet. And I was around, I'm old enough to be around for when the internet was coming around, and people would poo-poo it and say it was just a fad, and they couldn't imagine how they would ever use it, and now people are utterly dependent on it. I've told this story before on the air too. The first time I ever heard the phrase World Wide Web, remember how that's what we used to call it before we just called it the internet? It was the World Wide Web. It was James Spann. He walked into the newsroom. This was in the early 90s. I remember exactly where I was sitting. He walked in the newsroom and sort of made an announcement because he's a tech guy, and he was always ahead of everything back in those days, especially. And I remember him coming into the newsroom. He said something along the lines that everybody here needs to understand that the future is the World Wide Web, and we better learn how to use it. I mean, he just told the whole newsroom, and then he went on with some other personal conversations, and I went, what the hell is he talking about? AJ, I asked somebody next to me. I was sitting on the assignment desk where all the assignments are handed out every day. It's kind of a little platform in a lot of newsrooms, and it is always there. AJ, if you lost my signal, I'm going to try to reboot it real quick. I just looked down and I saw a message. As long as the audio stays up.
Yeah. I would have been texting you like, oh my God, I lost you.
I just looked down and got a message like, we lost the signal. I've got the today. I use a Starlink system. Speaking of internet, and it makes it possible to do these road shows and to do all the things that we've done over time. But AJ, you might have to send me another invitation on that link that we use, because I don't even see an open invitation in my history. It might have been on your end. You might need to check it on your end. But anyway, we'll get to that here in the break. We'll reset it during the break. No big deal. It's just my big old fat head with a logo and a backdrop today. But yeah, Spann came in and said that phrase, and I sort of punched the guy next to me and said, what's he talking about, World Wide Web? What's WWW? Because he was pushing really hard for the TV station to get a website, to get a domain, and to get on the internet. And we all kind of just looked at each other and grabbed our videotape machines with actual tape in them before the digital age and ran out and covered our news stories. And look at the world now. So there's part of me that sees the downside, the societal downside, the environmental downside, the economic upheaval that it's going to be. And the other side of me says, I've lived long enough to understand you have to embrace change. When it's coming, it's coming. There were people out in this part of the country that didn't want to embrace some of the changes that came with the railroads and industrialization and other things that were coming along that made people uneasy. They had a way of life they could trace back thousands of years in agriculture, and change always comes, and it's inevitable that it will. So We'll keep an eye on this news conference to see whatever they're going to do with it as we roll along this afternoon as well. 545-9950 is the phone number if y'all want to get on the show. Bring it, and we will put you on the radio. I see Dan over there. Dan, if you're going to go short, we'll try to get Dan in here real quick. Dan, what's up, buddy?
Can't go short.
All right. You want to wait?
Yeah, I'll wait.
I know. Dan's one of our more thoughtful callers, and I knew he might need more than a minute. So we're going to take this break. Let me talk to you about Ox Foundation Solutions. Here's the thorough, comprehensive company. If there's ever a time that you're going to notice you've got water coming in, it's with weather like we've had for the last 2 months. The water table's up. We're out of the drought zone, and here comes some more. Luckily, we didn't get any of that tropical storm. So take a look around. Some of you may already sense the presence of moisture or even mold. I mean, you can smell. I mean, I'm telling you, I've been in homes where you could taste mold in the air, literal mold spores, because the house had become so dank. You got to get ahead of that at the first sign. So naturally, cracks, shifts in the mortar, in the bricks, in the cinder block, in the sidewalks, any of that stuff, they can come handle. If water's getting in because of that or maybe caused it, they can fix those problems. Not just repair them, but fix the cause, which is so important. And then if you're all the way to the level of you've got mold and standing water, they can rid you of that, dry you out, remediate that mold, get you encapsulated, level out your house. It's all of those services. And what's important about that is, when all of these things can be interconnected. One problem causes the next thing that causes the next thing. So let them come help. This is the company I trust to send to your house. They'll be doing some encapsulation work for me this year too. It's oxstrong.com. Can't miss them. oxstrong.com. Back here in just a minute. Lead on Live. Stay tuned. Did you just see Jessica make a nice cameo here on the show? I always give her the time cues, and non-radio people don't get it. So I'm like, bottom of the hour, that means nothing to people that don't do this for a living. It's okay, boo. You good? Tight space up in here, leading live talk 995. Hey, let's go on to Dan. Let's get Dan in here real quick. Dan, what's going on, buddy? AJ, is Dan still? Dan? Maybe he fell asleep. Maybe that break was so long, Dan just gave up the ghost.
He probably got on another phone line.
He could be. He's a busy young man.
No, I'm here. I'm here, guys.
There he is.
All right, now I can hear you. What's up, bro?
I had my phone muted. I got a lot to unpack.
I understand. Keep going.
All right, look, the internet made 1 million millionaires, right?
Sure.
AI is going to make 1 billion millionaires. It's a factor by 100.
That's what I hear. Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how to get in on it.
You need to you start using AI, long story short.
Yep.
Yeah, but I have a lot to unpack. Like, mostly what I'm trying to say, like, real quick, 2 points, one on Iran, one on the next presidential election. Real quick, the one on Iran is that we're playing these people and we're playing the world when it comes to this, right? Because we could have ended it. I know I made a call to you about like 70 days ago and was like, hey, we're starting these negotiations and they just need to bring the hammer. And if they don't bring the hammer, they just need to like talk about it. If they don't come to a conclusion, they need to bring the hammer. And at that point, you were like, hey, they're going to do things. But it's a prolonged eventuality when it comes to this war. I mean, we're seriously the Strait of Hormuz, not by Americans, but by the world. The rest of the world needs that, and we're kind of in control of it. So we're kind of holding that at that point. And, if it wasn't for the citizens of Iran, it would have already been decimated. That's my stance on that. So the next point is like, moving forward, I really don't want to say like too little too late for the election cycle for America, but like the poly markets has J.D. Vance announcing his presidency, his candidate for the presidency. Poly markets has it at 67% before June the 1st, 2027. So in 1 year, the poly markets are saying, yeah, J.D. Vance is going to say, I'm going to be president, right? Here's my problem with that. My problem with that is that J.D. Vance is deeply embedded with the deep state and Palantir and Peter Thiel, specifically Peter Thiel, right? So those of you that don't know, if J.D. Vance and Peter Thiel met each other at a Yale conference years ago, and Peter Thiel saw J.D. Vance, and they became very close, dude. And, the next thing is J.D. Vance is in the venture capitalist market. That's the next thing you see. And very shortly after that, the next thing you see is the rise of power. So my thing with that is that those of you that don't know, Palantir controls a lot of data processing when it comes to the AI stuff, right? And Palantir literally can look at the satellites over Iran, figure out where a missile was launched, and go attack that missile. So Palantir job in the military is literally to identify threats and establish threats and then neutralize threats. That's what they do with their processing. And JD
But
Vance
I thought the DoD threw Palantir out for a while. I think they're out now.
Yeah, they're embedded, bro. They're all embedded.
Yeah,
it's the same. Like, you just can't just have a startup company that processes AI data. You just can't start that from fresh.
I'm a little ignorant on some of that, but I will tell you, just as far as organizational politics, Dan, we're so far from the end of the presidential. All day long on Fox, they're obsessing over some random New Hampshire poll that has AOC ahead with the Democrats, and they spend a lot of time talking about the Democrats. What I do know is Republican races will be more competitive than whatever they do on the other side. They're not going to coordinate people. One, because there's a huge talent field. You still got DeSantis lurking around out there who's been an excellent governor. Right now, I'm a Rubio guy, and I don't even have to vilify J.D. Vance to decide Rubio I think is a better pick. There are some good people, very talented people, probably 10 deep in the Republican field. As much as I have disdain for the way the party is operating right now in Congress, I feel really good about the 28 prospects, no matter who they pick. And we've got a long way to go. A lot of things will change, no doubt, between now and then. And some of this will have to do with Trump himself. Gone are the days that a VP is the automatic front runner. That hadn't been the case in a while. All right, I tell you what, Dan, hang on. I'll give you a few more minutes. Clock's just getting us, and we got a 4-hour show. We got plenty of time. Hang on, buddy. Back here in a minute. Good thoughts, though. I appreciate the call. Y'all stay tuned. Lead on Live. Get on back in here, 235 Leland Live, Alabama Bass bringing you the show this hour as well. Talked to John last week. They're making some really nice changes and a sort of a new transition at Alabama Bass, and I'm excited about some of the things they're doing going forward, keeping that company, which has been around for 40 years, improving people's baths, really, and their kitchens. But the Alabama Bath portion with this tub shower, this is my phraseology, these tub shower replacement systems where you can look, they'll put a tub in if you love your tub, but it's getting old and kind of moldy and things have gone wrong over the years. They'll get that old cast iron sort of out of date antique tub out and put you something new. You can keep your tub. But a lot of the reason to do this change in your home is for access and stability. And so they've got these gorgeous systems that are full replacements. This isn't one of those cover up cosmetic things. This is a real ergonomic change to your bathroom. And so if you're getting older or you just don't want to fall in there and your health is good and your mobility is good, some people just don't like slipping around and you just prefer a shower, they can come in and get rid of that old tub and get you something that's easy to enter, easy to exit, slip proof. I love the way even the plumbing, I didn't know about this when I went and looked at their demo. They have these magnetic shower heads with the wands and you can just stick it up there and the magnet takes over, and that's so much easier to use than some of the awkward, clumsy stuff of years and years ago that's in some of your homes. If you or maybe a relative, somebody you love in your life, starting to go through some changes and losing a little mobility for whatever reason, this may be a life-changing way to keep your home, the place where all your memories are, and do it with a local company that's, A, they're going to give you a better product. Their product's just better. They've been in this business for decades. They've got the cutting-edge stuff. And then B, there's no pressure from them. They've got a very neighborly approach of giving you an honest offer on what they'll do it for and letting you decide. They invite you to go comparison shop because they believe their price is better, and they get it done in 2 days, so it's not a big disruptive project. I know a lot of folks dread the disruption of having something done inside your home. It is alabamabaths.com, alabamabaths.com. Y'all reach out to them, and if you want to go look at one of the build-outs, you can go take a look at that in Pelham. Just down there on Highway 31, downtown Pelham. It's alabamabaths.com. All right, if Dan's still there, I didn't want to cut Dan loose. He's a good caller and very thoughtful. But Dan, sometimes 5 minutes is not enough. I'll give you another 5 minutes. What you got?
Yeah, Leland, I'm sorry, man.
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah, dude. There's a lot, man. A lot of people. So anyway, I really feel. I know you said that we're not quite to election yet.
Yeah.
But I feel like we were at election 2 years ago at this point,
Well,
and, yeah, and man, it may be too little, too late, but we all know, we've all read the book. Well, I hope most of us have read the book, and we all know the ending. But if you think about catalysts of what progresses, time, you see a lot of that. And this thing about AI is that it's completely a catalyst. I mean, the internet, yeah, that was one step, but now with the AI and with these data centers, there was one thing that happened at September 11th, 2001. If anybody ever remembers that, I was a sixth grader in my social studies class, and they wheeled the TV in, right, the old fatback TV, and we all saw the second plane hit. And in that moment, with the Patriot Act, everybody that our forefathers said that is, if you give up, any type of privacy, you give up your freedom. In that moment, in December, January 2001, 2002, everybody gave up their freedoms for the sake of terrorism. 100%.
For security, yeah. We thought it would. The Patriot Act was the beginning of that, and in full admission, you've probably heard me talk about it, Dan. I was working for a member of Congress at the time, and I was foursquare behind it too, like most of the country. We'd just been hit. We were emotional. It's kind of like during COVID. The power-hungry people in the government will take advantage of any kind of crisis to grab more power, and that's exactly what they did. The language of the Patriot Act is actually not bad if you read it, but understanding human beings, and our forefathers did, given that power, it has been abused by those who came after it was passed, including a lot of Republicans, and we continue to put up with it, and I think that's kind of what you're getting at as well.
Yeah, I am. But like the catalyst of that, after the Patriot Act, the catalyst that really gets the snowball rolling down the hill, to the end is the AI, man. And I'm not trying to say that to make it a demon. It's going to make a billion millionaires, man.
Yep.
It's going to have $1 trillion worth of income. But honestly, like the deep state is so big, man. And I love Rubio, like I love him. But JD Vance, like long story short, JD Vance is not the ticket, man, because he's so deeply embedded with the deep state. We see these flock cameras. That's a big deal you see right now with the flock cameras and what they study,
Yep.
and all that stuff. And all that's true. I've been seeing these cameras put up for 5 years. And I've been telling my wife, and it's just this low-key thing that I say as I'm driving. I'm like, hey, you realize that camera can realize where we're at. But we're just 20 years behind from China. They have a social credit system that if you jaywalk, they're going to give you a fine for $50 where you can't ride the bus. It's completely an eventuality, and I'm not trying to steal your show, Leland, but Christ is King, man. And it all
got you, man.
Dude, it all ends the same way. And JD Vance is not the nominee for the deep state. If you're trying to like protest the deep state and like get your like point across, he's not it, because he's deeply embedded with big money and the government. That's all I'm saying, man. JD Vance is not the ticket.
Dan, I got you, man. I appreciate all that today. I know you've been thinking a lot about it. And let me just pile on that. Thanks, Dan. Let me just pile on that for a minute, and then thanks, brother. Listen, I don't even just because not. Let me just try to get my thoughts here. A lot of people will support a candidate because they don't like the other guy. I mean, that's just it's the lesser of two evils choice, and it's sad, but that is politics. There's a promo running right now, and I don't even remember saying it, but it's something I said that AJ probably pulled from the show. That in any given time, these people fancy themselves as somehow are great leaders and doubt or inspired. And I know what the Bible says about God anointing leaders, and I do believe that that's true. But human nature is what it is. And in most cases, we've got these very mediocre people who were the lesser of two evils in an election. I mean, they didn't like the other guy more. And it's why negative ads work, and then it's money driven, and these people are bought and paid for before they ever do their first campaign ad. If you weren't bought and paid for, you couldn't get your campaign ad up. It's just how it works, and it's where we are. And the people that are in charge that write those checks don't want disruption in the system because they own the system. They don't care for a revolution. They'll let you say what you want to say, especially on the Republican side. I've seen this firsthand. You can trash their very business, and they'll still write you a check as long as you don't do anything. You are controlled opposition to the other guys, and that's it. The other guys have gone mad. And so we're in this weird dynamic right now where the Republicans don't really want to do anything to risk their careers. None of them collectively, there's some courage, but not enough, especially in the Senate. And let me just say this, just bouncing off Dan, because we got other things to get on to. Right after Trump won, I did everything I could, as enthusiastic as I was, that word salad crazy woman wasn't going to lead this country further down the destructive path that we were on economically, foreign policy. Everything was such a mess, and it still is. We're still unwinding a lot of stuff, but things are better now. They've improved. The economy's improved. Today we had people seeking jobs, and the number dropped of people trying to apply for unemployment and claiming joblessness because they can't find a job, so they go get in the unemployment line. It's the lowest level since 1969. Crime has cratered out. I've seen a lot of reporting about Birmingham's drop in the crime rate, as if anybody in Birmingham had anything to do with it. That is a nationwide thing right now. And some of it has to do with all these deportations. Some of it has to do to a return in sanity over being tough on criminals and actually locking people up. It's the only thing that works throughout human history. It's all that works. None of this creative stuff the left was coming at us with sending them a therapist and a social worker. You got to put their ass behind bars and get them away from the rest of us. That's the only thing that's ever worked in any country at any time in human history, period. We had drifted into some real stupid stuff. So the debt's still going up. Now we're involved in a shooting war, which may be about to get worse. So clearly things aren't perfect. And some of y'all are still sideways about the price of gas, as if that's the biggest thing in the world right now. and that's fine. Our opponents understand that about the American mindset, and they're abusing it and using that to try to win this war. They're using our own weakness against us over stupid stuff like gas prices. And but so things aren't perfect, but we've made a turnaround. I mean, there are so many measures of how we've turned things around, but we're not there yet, and we don't have enough time. Here's my warning. I warned you after Trump won that the United States Senate was going to be the reason his agenda doesn't stick. Now, was a brother right or what? Huh? Can I get a witness? Day after the election, I came on the air and I knew the weakness was going to be in the Senate. We still had 4 or 5 people that will never actually do what they claim they're going to do when they get elected. And they're just creatures of the system. And the key is don't buck the system and keep your job. It's a cushy-ass job. For some of them, it's the most money they could ever make. They really don't have job skills to go out in the world and do anything else. They've become accustomed to having staff at their disposal, getting driven around, being applauded, giving chicken dinner speeches. They love it, getting on Fox every now and then. They don't want to give that up, so they don't want to take any risk. It's about them, not you. And so they're going to let us down, and boom, there they go. And then we turn around and add to it. As the state of Alabama, we've sent our own weak people up there that'll cave in a second. So here we are with the Senate not really codifying any of this stuff that Trump has done. The House, to their credit, has put forward some pretty good stuff. They had to shoot down another war powers resolution today, and good for them. But it doesn't matter if you don't get it into law. Everything, and here's the final warning about what I believe is coming over the next few years. Trump's going to have an incredible 2 years. I mean, look, they're still trying to kill him. We've got a story today that the Secret Service has an all-time threat vector right now. They're dealing with 10,000 different threats at once that they're having to track down and investigate. The threat environment against Trump and his cabinet members of Congress and others is at an all-time high. So we're in dangerous times that way. So something could change in that way, and I hate to even predict it, but we have to talk about it out loud. A lot could change in 2 years, but if things stay like they are, Trump's going to have us where we need to be in 2 years. Just look at, we talk about deportations a lot. We're so spoiled. I'm preaching at my own audience right now. It's all of us. We're so spoiled as Americans. We forget what we were bitching about 12 months ago. We have not let anyone in this country since he got elected. 48 hours after he threw his hand up, they shut the border down, and we have not had any catches and releases. That's over. We've had these wonderful Supreme Court rulings that are straightening things out, where the whole race hustle, there's a headline on that in a minute I'll get to, it's kind of been shot down. We're back to some just common sense. Just do the right thing for the country to preserve all of our freedom, all of us, black, white, all of us. We're all fellow citizens. The division and the tribalism is it's kind of hit a wall, and that's good. The threats are there, but Trump's only got, let me do some quick math in my head. So January, he's got 2 years and about 5 months of effectively being the president. Some would even say that last 2 months of a presidency is kind of worthless after there's a new president-elect. And so here he is on his own with his cabinet doing the things he did today and pulling these things off, and every bit of it is reversible within 90 days of the next president if Congress doesn't act on any of this stuff and make it at least a law that has to go through a process to get reversed. Executive orders, especially if one of these commies in this mental illness party called the Democrat Party right now, if any of them get one of these people that they're talking about getting nominated, if the Republicans were to shoot themselves in the foot, which they're quite capable of doing, if they wind up don't even get me started on the midterms. But regardless, whether the Republicans win in 28 or whether the Democrats win in the midterms, Trump's agenda has only got 2 years and 5 months, and we're back to mediocrity. We're back to sellouts, blow-dried politicians giving you talking points and hiding behind press representatives, and the old playbook, the playbook I governed under, or I lived under when I was involved in organizational politics. Everybody kind of does it the same way. When the people behind the scenes that are really controlling everything get what they want, that is, they want the mediocrity. They want to be able to keep these people under wraps and under control and not do any bold, courageous, risky things. There's never been a company invented or started or any advancement of this country that didn't come with risk And I don't see any risk takers in the field anywhere. Anywhere in national politics is there a bold risk taker. I see a lot of trash talkers. With Rubio, I think he sincerely believes all this in his heart, but I don't know what his he's got the acumen and he's got the philosophical stuff, but will he do anything? Because I have followed and been part of and been close to philosophical people who had the policy right in their heads, but they didn't have courage in their hearts, and it lets us down every single time. The point being, we've still got to pay attention. We still got to vote. We still got to hope for the best. But we're living in a little window of time when we're fighting back. We're trying to save this place through a lot of stupidity on crime, on the border, on education. They just blew up the Department of Education, and we've forgotten about that too. What I was pointing out about the border crossings is we haven't let anybody in, and that's part of the net win of that whole system. They were coming across 5,000 a day during Biden. They're going out 10,000 a day right now during Trump, but he doesn't have long to make those numbers add up so that it's as effective as it should be. So even though they're ultimately winning these court cases on all of these issues, and some of that will stick, but inevitably the Democrats will gain some power back. They have zero power in Washington right now. They really don't have any power right now other than to be obstructionists. The Republicans will form a circular firing squad and wimp out and let these people get back control, and all of this is reversible. It won't take them 24 months to put this country back on the crappy path that we were on just a few weeks ago. I mean, literally just months ago. The turnaround has been phenomenal, but it's not going to last. It's just not going to last. I have no hope that there's any courageous person out there that's going to do any of this stuff. And it's because we don't have a formidable Republican Party. We've got a bunch of posers that aren't going to do any of it. That's just true. God bless them, because that's the only party I can vote for right now. But here, I mean, and there, I heard Gingrich talking about this the other night. The Republicans are poised right now to seize a tremendous opportunity to move forward while the Democrat Party is self-immolating. They're in a suicide spiral right now. But that's not enough. Even if they do, let's say they really melt down and go full commie and the Republicans pick up 10 or 20 seats in the House, it won't matter if they don't do the stuff, if they don't make the votes, if they don't push things forward, if they don't put them into law. And they haven't been. The most you can get out of them is a big DOD budget, more spending on our priorities, not less spending overall. You're not going to get any of that stuff. They're going to bankrupt this country, both parties colluding together to get goodies for their buddies, and their benefactors are going to bankrupt this country, and there has been any change in that. So how's that for some gigantic big old pile of pessimism? I'll cheer up during the break. I'm just telling y'all, it's not cynical. It's not just cynicism. It's lived experience. It's lowered expectations, and learning to appreciate the things that are going right, but be wary of the things that could possibly go wrong. And so you better enjoy it. You better enjoy the next 30 months of reform and change and confrontation and risk, because it's gone after about January 2029. You better have a plan. Back in a minute. Leland Live. It's 2:55, Leland Live. Here we go. Axiom Tax Resolution Group next up here on the show. Man, just all that stuff I just ranted about, you get to pay for it. They take it straight out of your paycheck. About half your paycheck goes to these sons of bitches. And if you don't pay them what they think you owe them, they'll come and try to ruin your life. They will try to ruin your life, and they got a lot of power to do that. What they're not going to tell you, there are programs that help you settle for less. There are programs to stop the harassment, but you got to assert yourself, and you need professional help to do it. It's a shame that our tax code works that way, but it does. Perry Cronin, unless we wind up changing it one day, is here for you in the meantime to work with the IRS to get you a settlement. Once they know you've engaged this kind of competence, they learn to back off because they know the law and what they can and can't do. And you might even, here's the thing, there's some folks that work over there that get it, and they'll work with you. But you've got to do your part, and that's have the right representation and know what to offer and what's possible. And Perry does this. This is all he does. He has focused his practice on nothing but dealing with the IRS problems for folks. So sit down with him. He's local, and I love the fact that he's right here with us in Birmingham, a 100% expert in this field. It's Axiom Tax Resolution Group, 205tax.com, 205tax.com. The phone number is 872-1100. Let's see if we can get KP in here real quick on line one. What's up, KP?
Hey, listen, you gave the perfect example of why we need term limits for all our legislative people. We got them for the chief executive officers, but we don't have them for legislative branches. So that's the key thing in trying to get this all straightened out. I think it is.
Yeah, it is, and I've always been for it. The problem is the people that need to put term limits in place for themselves are never going to vote for it because it affects themselves.
That's why it should be a nationwide referendum.
Yep, but we'd have to get the people that would be affected by it to put it on the referendum, and they're never going to do it. They love their jobs. They're going to die in office like Lindsey Graham. Yep. Their fantasy is to die in office and get held in state like old Lindsey with a flag and the rotunda. That's how they all want to go out. Look at freaking Mitch McConnell. He's comatose if he's even alive, and he still won't go anywhere. These people cling to it to their last breath, and they'll never vote for term limits. Thanks, KP.
Term limits. All right, we'll see you later.
All right, man. One of the arguments, speaking of that, one of the arguments against term limits has always been, well, that's why we have elections. You can always vote them out. I mean, that's so stupid and defeatist, I guess. Let me just put it this way. You don't have elections if you don't have competition for the seat. And with the power of incumbency and all the money they rake in and the high-profile ability they have to have the bully pulpit while in office, a lot of times you never get challengers. In states like Alabama, which is all Republican, in districts which are all Republican, you can't get a Republican to challenge another Republican because it's too difficult, and so they just get to keep their seat. There's no Democrat opposition in these districts or in our state, and so they just get to hang on like Mike Rogers and Robert Adderholt for 30 freaking years. And I like those two guys, but they've been there too long. It's just the way the system works. They're not going anywhere, and it would take a lot of money and an upstart to knock them out. The Democrats are doing it right there. They're knocking out some of their old guard. The Republicans just don't act that way. Back in a minute. Stay tuned.